Hello everyone, welcome to my immigration story. I am your host Sujata Ramteke. This is an ongoing series where we bring to you stories of immigrants from varied backgrounds, and we hope to shed some light on the challenges and the triumphs experienced by the immigrants in America. And today we have with us Summer Ismail. Welcome, Summer.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
So, Summer, tell us about yourself. Where are you from and what do you currently do?
So I am originally from Pakistan. I was born in Lahore, Pakistan, and I am currently a teacher at the Foxborough Regional Charter School.
When did you come to US?
About in 2000, so I was like roughly 3.5, 4 years old.
Oh, okay. What was your first visa when you came here? Like, did you come with your parents or?
So my father had actually come prior with my older brother. So he was working in California. So he had come, he had like done his schooling, he had a bachelor's degree, so he came here for work. At that time, he wasn't able to bring all of us, but then shortly after, me and my mom came along to join him because we missed him. So that's kind of how we came following my dad.
So here you came on like green card?
I believe the visa was just like, I'm not 100% sure the logistics, but I know that my dad came for work, so he had brought us over like through, like he had a work visa so that we were able to come, like, because we're his family, so he's able to apply for like family members. We didn't get our green cards till like later on as we after we came here, and then we were able to get our green cards.
So do you remember, do you have memories as to like how difficult or how challenging it was for your dad to kind of go from work visa to get your visa, get visas for you, get you guys here, and then converting to your green card?
So my dad comes from a big family. So a lot of his brothers had also struggled for years to try to come. My dad was very lucky. He was able to come to America a few times through his education and work purposes. So his biggest thing for us was education, and that is a huge reason why he wanted to leave Pakistan, is so that his kids could have a good opportunity for a great education, because everyone back home like struggles and they are all like competing with each other to try to get to come to school over here. So we're very lucky that because of my dad we were able to come here for an education. So the process itself took a long time. I know that it took like, I want to say 10 years, maybe 15 years till he got his actual like citizenship, which he took the test and everything for that. But it was a long process until we became like US citizens.
Yeah, and do you often go to Pakistan back or no?
I've been a couple of times just because it's very far and it's expensive.
Yeah.
Of course, when you go, you want to stay for a long time. I've been twice, like throughout like middle school and when I was younger. The biggest trip I had is I took off when I was in college. I took off a semester and I was able to stay there for actually like 2 semesters, sorry. So I was able to stay there for almost 5 months. For me, it was important because, once you get after college, you go into your career, it's hard to take off time to spend with family. And again, that's where I was born, that's where I came from. I wanted to know more about like my family and like actually get to know them more than like a WhatsApp call. So it was a really nice exposure to the culture and how life was there, and it really made me take life in America for granted, because I feel like, okay, I should be more grateful for what I have here. Like, I don't realize how hard my dad really worked until I went home and I kind of saw like, okay, this is what my life would have been like if I never moved here. Because obviously, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was saying, on vacation and stuff, it's different. You're just going, you're having fun, but like living there for 4 to 5 months, like you actually get to experience like day-to-day life.
What did you find? Like, I usually ask people what was the cultural shock when they moved from the country to US, but I would ask you the other way around. What was the cultural shock for you? Because you moved at a very early age here, and then you are quite used to life in US and the ways and everything. You are mostly American, right?
Of course,
you are American.
I brought up mostly.
So what was your cultural shock when you went back there to Pakistan?
I think I didn't speak English. For me, English is not my first language. Urdu is. So, and my family is very cultural. They're very intact with about their culture. So it wasn't in a sense too much of a culture shock, because our family is we pride ourselves in our culture, and we still want to remember it, even though now we live in America. So like my mom always wears Pakistani clothing to this day. She's never worn American clothing. So I'm so used to like that, our foods, everything that we eat, religion and things like that. Like we go to the masjid, all the practices that we have and they have over there, and the mentalities and like just traditions and stuff, those are things that we grew up here. So even though we're living in a different country, I never felt lost in my culture. So it was a culture shock more coming to America than anything, because again, I had to learn the language, I had to, assimilate in the environment, and even though I came to a country and I grew up here, but my family and my surroundings were always, Pakistani. So going to Pakistan, I guess the biggest thing was, I feel like in America I have more freedom, especially as a girl. My family is very, forward with, girls deserve education. They need to go to school. They should have the right to work and this. But not every family, especially I went back in 2016. Not everyone was at that level. To get married, you didn't really need to go to college. But nowadays they're really progressing, and like. It's becoming to the level where if you don't have a college degree, no one wants to, a marriage or anything like that.
So do you think there is a mindset shift of people in Pakistan because of the education they're getting, or a factor could be people who have migrated from Pakistan to US and then going back to the country, and kind of when local people there see the difference they have made in terms of raising their families or educating their daughters, which is really not, because I'm from India too, so we have some things about educating your daughters. So do you think like this factors together kind of bridging that gap between what we had in Pakistan before, as in terms of education and other cultural things that were not really appropriate but are like changing drastically? Do you feel when you went there, did you experience that?
Yes and no. I think it depends on the area that you're from and like the class that you are from. Because I feel like if you're in a higher class, your family's more well educated. I feel like they're more liberal in the sense that they're more, education, pro-education or this. If you're from a very low class, or if you're unfortunate and you might, because we have like maids and drivers, and that group of people usually don't have a lot of money, so they don't have that money for education. So those kids grow up like 10 years old, they're already maids at people's houses or cooks. So those little girls are not getting the same education, or they're not really progressing. I think it has a huge part to do with like the money and like the class that you're in. I feel like parts of Pakistan definitely are progressing, and a lot of it I feel like can be very similar to here, but then there are parts that are not there yet. So, and I also think with education you can have more an open mind and be more understanding of the world and like what needs to happen. But definitely freedom, like I could step out the house here any time and take my car and go, and my parents wouldn't really be worried like, oh, you're a girl going out alone at night. Like that's not something they would ever question. But in Pakistan, because again, the environment might not always be safe for a girl to just walk out alone, and obviously I would wear Pakistani clothing there, but even then, like even if you're covering up, like not everyone has that respect for you, and that might not keep you safe. And like there's a lot of I don't know the word to say, but there's a lot of like rules, I guess, around like girls, and like I feel like there's a lot of differences. The rights that like a son might have, a daughter might not have the same. So I feel like they're still struggling with that. But from my family's perspective, it's more a safety thing. But I would hope that one day, we get to a point where we don't have to worry about, our daughter going out to get like groceries alone at night or something like that.
So when you mentioned the cultural, you have been there for a few months and you experienced the culture in its own place. I know it is different when you are raised in a family that has kept the culture quite intact, but still the external environment, you are not in the same environment as you would be in Pakistan, right? So when you mention culture, I would like to ask you, like, how, in terms of hijab, right? What is the significance of hijab, and how do you see it being born and raised here, like being raised here in America specifically? How do you see that, that as a freedom, as a choice, or how do you see that? So
first and foremost, hijab is it's a religious piece of clothing. It's not really cultural, but the majority of Pakistan is Muslim or like follows the religion of Islam. So that is why a lot of women there do wear hijab, or I have like a dupatta right now, as you can see.
Yeah.
So a lot of women in Pakistan.
It's very pretty.
Thank you. So a lot of women, our clothing has a dupatta, which is like a longer like scarf almost, or hijab.
Yeah.
So a lot of the women, it's part of their clothing, so they'll like wear it loosely and they'll just wrap it, but it's more for modest reasons, even if they don't practice Islam, because we have a lot of Christian Pakistanis as well. There's other religions, there's Sikhs too that live there. There's so many different cultures and religions, but of course the majority is Muslim. The biggest thing is I grew up with my mother wearing a hijab, and for me, I knew it was a part of the religion. It does signify like God wants you to look in the mirror and like, you know, love yourself and know that like you're not defined by your beauty, you're defined by who you are. And I know a lot of people like misconceive that. They might think like, oh, hijab is, you know, they're oppressing their women, they're forcing them to wear it. It is a choice that you have. God does want us to wear it. That's what it's written in the Quran, the holy book. It's something that's required for a woman in Islam. Obviously, at the end of the day, it's your choice whether you're going to do it or not, but it's not meant to be something to oppress women. It's supposed to help protect them and protect their preciousness almost. Like I would wear it to school sometimes for events. I would wear it to the mosque, of course, with my friends. I've worn it out to the store during Ramadan, where like our holy month where we fast. We have to wear it while we pray. So like sometimes I would step out in it and stuff. And obviously you do feel a sense of almost uncomfortableness sometimes wearing it here versus back home, because of course everyone there is understanding and they know, you know, they're not going to question you. And oftentimes like there has been, you know, people who aren't kind or might make comments or even be rude, or, you know, I've had people have grabbed their hijab off, or like, why are you wearing this, go back to your country, like things like that. So there can be dangerous things that happen here, which a lot of girls are afraid to wear it because there's always so much going on in the world, and that creates like a bad narrative around Muslims. So sometimes it can cause fear for us to be able to practice our religion or our culture for those reasons. So of course back home you're able to do it more comfortably because everyone is, you know, doing it.
Doing the same. So you're not the odd man out, like, you know, you feel it here. You're not odd man out. You feel you don't feel like if you wear a hijab, I think you look different than everybody else. And by human nature, like we want to be one of the many, you know, want to be, you know, homogeneous. We don't want to look, you know, someone who's standing out. So I think the thought that you said about hijab is more about looking into the mirror and you know, loving yourself. I think I would, correct me if I'm wrong, but it would be like you cover your head, right?
Yes.
So hair is considered one of the most beautiful things for women. Women with beautiful hair is assumed more beautiful. And I think somewhere it also underlies this fact that even if you cover your hair, even without your hair, you're beautiful.
Exactly.
You don't need your hair to define your beauty. Is that what it is?
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing is hijab is just not covering hair. It's about dressing modestly. So like if I wear a hijab, I can't wear like shorts with, you know, short sleeves. I can't wear spaghetti straps. I can't have cleavage showing. Like you're still dressing overall modestly. Of course, there's a religious aspect to it. Like you know, to protect you, to protect your body. But the main thing that God wants for women is, you know, in our Quran it's written like men have to lower their gaze first. Like it's not, because a lot of people think, oh, you're wearing it because men can't see your bodies. Yes, you're not allowed to show another man except for your father, your brothers, or your husband, or your son, of course, like direct family. But for outside people, I feel like that's something that people get often confused with, but the main thing is like if you're so focused, like let's say I go for a job interview and I do my hair, I do my makeup, and there's nothing wrong with getting ready and wanting to look beautiful, but the whole point is like you shouldn't focus so much on your beauty getting the job, but like how you are as a person, your character. And especially for young girls, like the beauty standards nowadays are just, you know, with the filters, with social media, there's so much fake beauty and there's so much editing. And I grew up in a generation without social media as a younger girl, not until like high school, college. So for these young girls that like, I'm a teacher, I work in elementary school, I have like 3rd and 4th graders on social media. And to them, their version of beauty is already being put in their brains at such a young age.
Yeah, and it's very distorted.
It is,
Yeah.
and it's not real. Like you look online, those people are, you know, it's lighting, angles, like filters, editing. So there's nothing, it's just really sad. So I feel like that's one thing that makes hijab, like the main thing is like you want them to be able to love themselves and like know that their value isn't their beauty, it's who they are as a person.
That's so lovely, and that is a very profound thought. You know, I never thought hijab in that way. But I think everybody who's listening, they would get enlightened today about what the hijab is, and hopefully have you know, the change of thought that what it actually represents. So thank you for telling us that. You were in Pakistan for some time. I would want to ask you about whether, like, there are, in every country there are social issues and you know, taboos that are so ingrained in the culture that it's almost impossible to get them out. You just kind of learn to you know, work around it, right? Despite of what you mentioned about, you know, men getting more preference in terms of education than daughters. What are other things that you have noticed in terms of like taboos, or you think that that's not really there, but yeah, US, in America, I really get to do that. I don't see these things here.
There's a phrase, log kya kehte hain? And that's like the infamous, like all the kids get so annoyed. Log kya kehte hain just means like, oh, what will people say? So that's an often, I feel like it's a huge cultural thing. Like a lot of times, you know, if you're gonna, like, oh, if you're wearing something, if you're going out, like, oh, what are people gonna say if you're dressed like this? Like, you're gonna bring shame onto the family. So I feel like back home, everyone is so focused on like the respect for the family, and I'm not saying like, you know, everyone should care about their family and love them and not make choices that would hurt their family, of course, but I feel like that's a huge struggle that we face. Like, oh, log kya kehte hain? Like, what will people say if you do this or that or this? I feel like living your life, or, you know,
worry more about society.
So like what
society
think?
Is going to say.
Like, oh, if you choose to not be a doctor, because I feel like I'm very lucky. My father was very loving and very, you know, open to the idea of us not being a doctor. I have so many friends, their parents like, nope, you have to be a doctor, a lawyer, or like a chemist or something, you know, big. So I feel like our parents, I was very fortunate that my parents never put pressure on us. Like they always, like, my dad always told me, like, you need to choose something that's going to make you happy. You're going to, you know, you're doing this job for your whole life. It has to be something that you're willing to do. You're happy doing it. Of course, for girls and guys, it's different. In our culture and religion, usually it is the guy that provides. So for me, it's maybe that's why I got the easy, you know, didn't get as much pressure. But even with my brothers, my dad never forced them, like, you have to be a doctor, you have to do this. So the expectation of education is important, of course, but I feel like there's such a pressure on kids over there too, like just to be the best. And especially for the kids over there, they're always trying to compete and just always just like worrying about what other people will think. I feel like a lot of kids can't do certain things because they're like, oh, well, if you're not going to be a doctor, if you're deciding to be like, I don't know, what's like an average everyday job? Like, you want to be a business owner or something. Like, what will people say? Like, you're not educated, you're not this. So I feel like that mentality is so, like, too much pressure on, like, just working a specific job, or even just, like, basing your life or your children's life on what other people think. I feel like that's something that's hard. Because we always have one kid in the community that, you know, gets straight A's and, like, does this, and they just never go out or have fun. Like, oh, why are you going out with your friends? Their kids don't go out. So I feel like that was hard growing up. Like, we deserve to, you know, go out too.
Yeah, Asian parents always compare their kids,
yeah, right? Always comparing the kids. And I feel like that can be damaging, of course, for the child, because, you know, not every kid has the same learning and intellectual capabilities, and they might not have the same desires and wishes. So I feel like that's something that's hard.
You mentioned, you know, mostly the idea of, I think it's all over, like, Asia. We have this idea of you know, men seen as a provider, or you know, a bread earner for the family. So what do you think? What are your thoughts on because you mentioned, I'm just curious
No,
to
it's
know,
okay.
what are your thoughts on this, and what do you think, like, other Asian women, do they resonate with that, the same idea that men are the whole provider?
Yeah, I think religiously in Islam too, it is the man's responsibility to financially provide for his wife, his family. Like, the woman is not required to work. And of course, I feel like in South Asian culture, especially Pakistan, India, like those places, I feel like we do have that same mentality that like men go work. Oftentimes the women wouldn't go work; they would stay home with their kids. They would be a mom, and they wouldn't even just cook, clean. And I feel like growing up, I was so against that. I was like, I don't want to cook and clean. I want to work too. Like, why can't I do that? I want to be like a strong, independent woman. But I think being an adult now and actually being an independent woman, I still rely on my family. I'm very grateful for them. But at the end of the day, I feel like the more I think about it, especially being a teacher and seeing kids grow up, and even working in daycare, I used to work in early childhood education, and I would see parents drop off their kids at 7 o'clock and pick them up at 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock sometimes. Like, we would spend 40 hours with these kids. They wouldn't even see their families. And to me, like, we live in an economy where parents have to work. They have to do that to provide a happy life for their kids. If I have the choice, I would love to be able to raise my own kids. So I'm not against that anymore, like staying at home with them. I think like if I always had to, I think I've always worked my whole life. I worked 2 jobs, like through college, and even currently still doing that. I think I'm just so used to like working all the time, and it gives me something special to do. And I know I'm very good with kids, and I love teaching, and I have something to give to the world. So I feel like aside from being a mother, it's something separate that I would have for myself. So I do think that it's important to have a balance. I'm not fully like men do everything, but I'm not fully 50-50. I feel like there is a balance, and as time comes,
and that balance doesn't have to be 50-50.
Yeah, it doesn't have to. And I think everything, like I can do the dishes and cook, and he can help with the dishes too, and whatever it is. But I think it's not one or the either. I think there is a balance of both. Because if I had the choice, if my husband, when I get married one day, if he gave me the option to stay at home and raise my kids or put them in daycare, I would choose. If that's something that we could do, I would definitely choose to have my raise them and teach them.
Great. Do you have, or I should ask, did you ever have like an American dream, and do you think you have achieved that dream?
I think
being an immigrant, like
I think especially just coming here and having like a free education. I think that's the biggest thing, because over in Pakistan, like, kids don't get to go to school for free from K through 12. So we got all these opportunities. There's so many things that we get to do. I think also we're really hardworking people. Like, all my brothers are. I feel like all the kids that grow up here, sometimes when I go back home, I feel like a lot of my cousins don't have that same work ethic. And I think that's something big in America, that like kids, like you'll see young kids working and doing all these amazing things. You go to the supermarket, you see kids. You'll see kids like producing. You'll see them doing a lot of things. So I definitely think the work ethic that I grew up, I wouldn't have that work ethic if I grew up in Pakistan, because I feel like I would have been so focused on doing house things, or I would be raised more in that aspect, and I wouldn't have the same opportunities. Or I think individual growth, like being able to think critically and outside the box and think for myself.
Summer, would you like to give some advice to our viewers? And I would appreciate if you can say something in Urdu, please.
आप जो सारे हमारे चैनल देख रहे हैं और हमारी शो देख रहे हैं, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया देखने का। और मेरी एडवाइस है कि बस जो भी आपकी ख्वाहिश होती है ज़िंदगी में, उसको हार्ड वर्क बस डालो, हर रोज़ काम करो और उस पे अमल कर सकते हो। जितना भी आप कोशिश करो, आप बस हार्ड वर्क डालो, and then सब कुछ हो सकता है।
Thank you everyone for watching my immigration story. I am your host Sujata Ramteke. You can watch this episode on local channels or on our website fcatv.org. I'll see you next time.